Hey everyone, Amia here from Resonance Astrology and welcome to my channel. Today we are taking a look at the weekly overview from April 7th till April 13th. And this week I am only greeting you with a voice recording. I have sadly had some health flare ups around my womb area over the weekend and a bit before, and I just don't look fit enough to feel comfortable to show my face on camera. But hey, people constantly say my voice is calming, so I think y'all should be fine with just hearing my voice as well. And I think this week is a fun week. I think most transits are really leading up to the full moon that is going to happen in Libra by the end of this week. We are closing this week off with a big bang, and I think Venus is also just really highlighted this week. And Monday starts off strong with Venus, Saturn conjunction, Mercury turning direct. There is new clarity forming. On Tuesday, we have Venus sextile Uranus. On Wednesday and Thursday, no significant transits. On Friday, we have Mercury conjunct North Node and Mars in Cancer trining the North Node. Then on Saturday, we have Sun in Aries conjunct Chiron. And again on Sunday, Venus stations direct, and we have a full moon in Libra. So, again, I think most transits really leading up to that full moon at the end of the week. And also, just to get some promotional stuff out of the way, me and Duna are doing a whole 1 year long course on the Decans of astrology. We already uploaded the videos on the Decans of Aries on my YouTube channel, but that's just one part of it. The other part is doing live workshops where we go much more in depth and you can really interact with us and go more in depth with the decans of Aries or whatever sign we are talking about. But we're really doing it in progression with the actual decans that are going on in the sky. We're following the path of the sun. And this weekend, actually on Sunday, we are doing the Decans of Aries workshop. So if you want to join, I'll put the links down below. We also have a free introductory YouTube video on the Decans of Aries on my YouTube channel. Check that out as well. And if you like what you see, if you have a lot of Aries planets, I think this workshop will really be perfect for you. It's only $11 to join. You can also join for the whole year, which will save you a bit more money in the long run. But if you want to join for the Decans of Aries, then absolutely come this weekend. It's going to be so much fun. But I think with this, we can begin to dive a bit more deeply into the transits of this week. On Monday, we have Venus Saturn conjunction, and I also did a video on my channel just recently. It's the last video I did highlighting Venus and Saturn for the whole month of April because this pair is so prominent for the whole month of April because we have two Venusian ruled moons, one waiting on us this weekend, and then a bit later on in the month, we have a Taurus new moon, and we also have the start of Taurus season, which is a Venusian ruled season. So Venus is getting activated a lot. And because Saturn is always close by to Venus, Saturn is always in an engagement range. That means Saturn is no more or less than 3 degrees apart from Venus. So, whenever Venus is getting activated, Saturn is by default also getting activated. So, it's like they work in this synchronicity this month. They're a pair this month. And a lot of the Venusian and Saturnian themes are kind of leading us or leading the month of April to be a month where we can really establish a much better framework and lay this groundwork and foundation to then be able to build healthier, better, more secure, and long lasting relationships because Venus and Saturn are all about things that stood the test of time, especially in a relational way. Venus and Saturn also often brings pressure tests, which is definitely something that can come up on Monday if you are in an existing relationship or you're getting to know someone. Maybe Monday brings this first set of a pressure test, just so you can test out, is this a relationship that I want to commit for the long run? It's like a make or break moment. Sometimes Venus and Saturn really bring this make or break moments, and they are really important because Venus and Saturn are about the long term, and you really want to be sure that the person you commit to for the long term actually fulfills certain criteria. And if you want to know what these criteria are, I highly suggest you go check out the video I did on Venus and Saturn, because there I talk much more in depth about 5 things to watch out for and really go in depth in how to actually form better foundations for your relationships to then be able to yield a good harvest. So I highly suggest you check out that video. By the end of the month, just a bit before the Taurus new moon, we get the second conjunction of Venus and Saturn. So, again, both of these super highlighting this month. And then we also have Mercury stationing direct. Woohoo! Applause, applause. I think we are all happy that Mercury is stationing direct finally. I think this will bring us much needed clarity and resolution. Of course, it's not like in an instant everything will be cleared up and we will know exactly what to do. No, Venus is still a retrograde as well. But I think April is still this shifting month and like a course correcting month because of the retrogrades and also because of the post shadow periods of the retrogrades. I mean, Mars is still in its post shadow period. Mars will only really move out of its post shadow period by the beginning of May. And so will Venus too. Mercury a bit earlier, but again, as you see, April is still very much course correcting and realizing things and seeing where we are heading. There's definitely new momentum coming in and we are kind of leaning to move forward, but we're still, I mean, Neptune also just moved into Aries. So we really just entered a new chapter and we are beginning to kind of slowly get more comfortable. The eclipse season just ended. We are coming off from this like high electric time of the eclipse season. So I think April is really a month for settling down a bit more. And that's why I love Venus and Saturn coming together. And I also love that we have the start of Taurus season, such a beautiful, more relaxing season. And Mars moving into Leo will also be so great, but that's only happening next week. And on Tuesday, we also have Venus sextile Uranus. When Venus and Uranus come together, it brings in a bit more spice because Venus Uranus can often reveal to us unexpected revelations about our own desires or what we find pleasurable or who and what we are attracted to. Oftentimes, when Venus or Uranus, whatever, kind of does something in our chart, maybe Uranus is doing a transit to your natal Venus, or your natal Venus is doing a transit to your natal Uranus. But usually, if Uranus is doing a transit to your natal Venus, it's a much longer transit. But often, what can happen then is sometimes affairs happen because you suddenly discover you are attracted to this new person that comes into your life. Venus Uranus people are usually people that kind of flip our worlds upside down in an unexpected way. And Venus sextile Uranus is usually something that happens quite fast, but because Venus is kind of just in the progress of stationing and then turning direct, they will actually kind of be in this sextile position for a bit longer than usual. So I think this full moon in Libra that is leading up to this week is really also kind of infused with a bit of this revolutionary Uranian energy where we might find unexpected solutions or ways in how we deal with our pleasures, the way we stand up for ourselves, the way we have uncovered our new desires. Because I am so sure this whole Venus in retrograde transit has been so much about uncovering what do we actually want from relationships. It doesn't even have to be romantic relationships. It can be any sort of relationship. It can even be the relationship to yourself, which was very big when Venus was still in Aries, which is the direction she's heading towards next. When she stations direct again, she's going to enter Aries again eventually. And I think this transit has been just so big on what the heck do I want? And how do I stand up for my wants and needs in relationships or even to myself? Because everything kind of stems from the relationship we have towards ourselves. It's also a base, okay? Again, we're going back to Venus Saturnian themes. If there is no good base, no good foundation, how do you expect any relationship to actually bloom and yield any sort of good harvest if it's built on a rocky foundation? It just is impossible. And so Venus sextile Uranus just kind of brings in a bit of a spice where it really questions where where are we brave enough to actually go after our wants and desires and things that we usually suppress. And then on Friday we have Mercury conjunct the North Node. Of course, this is happening because Mercury just conjoined the North Node recently. Now that Mercury is direct, it's heading back to that conjunction. When Mercury in Pisces is conjunct or nearby the North Node, is when are we doing things in a conducive or a more destructive way? Because sometimes imagination can be great, but sometimes it can also be destructive or just too dissociative from reality. So we just have to pose these questions to ourselves. When are we imagining in a way that is conducive to maybe creating something? Because that is where Mercury is heading to. It's heading into the sign of Aries next, which is all about creation. And when are we in the realm of imagination to kind of escape from reality? Just yesterday, I posted something on Instagram that, like, questions from a reel that I think were just so prominent with us going back and forth between the threshold from Aries and Pisces and Aries. And it's this: are you writing to forget or to remember? Are you composing to express or to uncover? Are you photographing to preserve or to distort? Are you acting to escape or to become? Are you filming to document or to rewrite? And are you dancing to release or to relive? And then we also have Mars in Cancer trining the North Node, which I think is just amplifying this way, or sometimes I think because, okay, we have Mercury, Mars, and a North Node at play here. Mercury and Mars can sometimes be heavy thoughts, piercing thoughts. I think in these water signs that we are dealing with this, it's often linked to memories from the past and things we maybe have not yet fully overcome that are still lingering, and really just like things we're reminiscing over or ruminating over. This is why I think these questions are so good, because by asking ourselves these questions, I think we can gain deeper clarity of why we are doing what we are doing. We can really rethink how are we spending our time in our heads with the thoughts that we are having, because Cancer is always the symbol of home, but we often forget that the first home that we have and we will forever have until our last breath is our head, our brain, and our body. And this is the home that you have to make sure is the best home that you can build for yourself. The thoughts that we are thinking can either make or break our reality or the way that we interact with our reality or perceived reality. And it's often the turmoil of our own thoughts that actually make living in reality so much harder. Or like our relationships to our thoughts are much more indicative of how we experience reality than what reality actually is. Reality is plain and simple. We just overcomplicate things a lot of times because we distort things by our memories, and there's nothing like wrong with that or anything. But that's why I think these questions that I posed before are so important to go through, especially maybe during Friday. I think this is such a potent day to ask yourself these questions and ultimately to be able to establish a good foundation. We're going back to Venus and Saturn for yourself. Your brain, your body is the first base that you want to take care of, is a good home for you to be in. Then on Saturday, we have Sun and Aries conjoining Chiron. This happens every year when the sun moves into Aries. Ever since Chiron has been in Aries, the sun conjoins Chiron eventually. And every time this happens, it is really forcing us to look at the wounds of our ego. And it's usually, yeah, Chiron is just unpleasant. That's the thing. And the interesting thing about Chiron is that he's the wound healer, right? But if we go into the myth, Chiron can help others heal their wounds, but he cannot help himself. He cannot heal the wound himself. And oftentimes, Chiron in our own chart symbolizes these wounds where we just don't have enough resources to be able to help ourselves out of it. It's like we need another person to mirror or something because Chiron can't heal his own wounds, but he can heal the same wound in other people. So ideally, we meet somebody that can exactly go to that point, to that inner wound where that we cannot reach ourselves. So Chiron, interestingly enough, is so much about having to rely on each other to heal, which I think is such a beautiful like intersection when we move towards the full moon in Libra. Because I think the sun in Aries conjuncting Chiron is really, it hits us right in the gut and the heart where we just simply cannot do everything on our own. And for a lot of us, that is super hard, especially for people that have a hard time asking for help or feel like they have this burden of having to do everything on their own. And that require like opening yourself up to be healed by another person requires a lot of vulnerability, which is so hard to open ourselves up to. But I think this is exactly what this Saturday and then all of this leading up to the Libra full moon is all about. And I just love that we have this full moon in Libra on Sunday, and just like an hour later, Venus stations direct. So this full moon is the culmination point of this whole Venus retrograde cycle. Everything that we have been going through, all the stories that have been unfolding in our own lives, which will be different for everyone since we all have different natal Venus placements and we all have Venus in different parts of our charts. I mean, Pisces and Aries, I guess, is where your story arc has unfolded, wherever Pisces and Aries land in your chart, in whichever houses. And so the story arc is really coming up to this culmination point. Being in relationship to other people requires sacrifices. You're usually sacrificing your time, your energy to some regard because you want to make somebody else's life better. It's an investment. Relationships are always an investment. And sometimes investments don't pay off. That's just the reality of things. But then there is one relationship that the investment always pays off, and it's a relationship you have to yourself. But if you're overly focused on just yourself all the time, you're kind of ignoring the fact that being human, being in this body, being in this world, being in this realm, which is essentially a relational realm, because how do we even know who we are if we don't have another person kind of mirroring something back to us? Imagine a world where there's no other people, there's no mirrors, there's just your consciousness. You would still somehow find a way of relating to something or someone, something higher, probably. And this is really the Aries Libra axis that is highlighted here, like the relationship to yourself and the relationship to other people, and how we need both. Both things are conducive and lead to a fulfilling life. And as I often like to quote Esther Perel, like the my favorite person when it comes to talking about relationships, she always says the quality of our relationship determines the quality of our life. And so, yes, it starts with the relationship you have to yourself, but at the same time, living life completely alone isn't really fulfilling? Is it? Even if you go on to a remote island and you just live to yourself, you still find ways to relate to either God or the universe or the trees around you. So you always have a relationship to something or someone. There's just no way to not relate. We are constantly relating. This whole universe was built on the foundation of our desire to relate to something. Our cosmos is a Venusian creation. So these are questions we can ponder this weekend. First of all, our relationship to ourselves, and then also the wounds, because if wounds have been created through relationships, they can only be healed within relationships. There is only so much that you can do by yourself, and there is only so much you can do with others. And I think this is what the weekend is asking us, because I don't know where you are on your journey, okay? For some people, we are, maybe you are in a codependent relationship. You need to learn. Your task is to learn to be more self-reliant and self-dependent and nurture the relationship to your own self. Maybe you're on the complete opposite end of the spectrum and you are a loner and you only feel safe on your own and you kind of avoid being in a relationship to other people because it's triggering. I get it. Then your task this weekend is to open up and see, where can I actually let people in so I can kind of heal these relationship wounds a bit more? Because sometimes we need this, sometimes we need that. There isn't a one answer fits all. And this is why when there is a full moon, there's always the opposite axis that gets put up in the air. So this time we have the Aries and Libra axis, and this is just the axis. Sometimes it's about the relationship we have to ourselves, sometimes it's about the relationship we have to other people. But it's always about relationship with Aries and Libra, which is interesting. And again, Venus is also stationing direct, which is the culminating point. But this too will slowly lead us to gain more clarity and gather resolutions for ourselves or with other people. Maybe we start gaining realizations about what this Venus and Mercury retrograde cycle has been for us. So I think this week is just a lot about realizations about the relationships we have towards ourselves, the relationship we have towards others, and how we can build better, more sustainable foundations for relationships. I think I've said relationships so many times now. Take a shot every time I say relationships. Um, but this is what I have for you this week, guys. And I'm always so fascinated. I swear. I'm always like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm not going to have so much to say this week. There's not a lot of transits. And then I start talking and I'm like, gosh, again, I've talked for 20, 30 minutes. How is this possible? How do I suddenly have so much to say again? um, yeah. And again, this weekend, if you want to do something fun for the Libra full moon, I highly encourage and invite you to join the workshop me and Duna are doing on the Decans of Aries. It's only $11 and it's happening this Sunday, so be there. It's going to be fun. If you want to stay in touch over socials, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this video. It helps out more than you know. I also am very active on Instagram, and all the links are down below. I am really excited for this month of April. I feel like it's a good balancing act in April that is going on. And I'll see you guys next week, hopefully also at the workshop. Lots of fun videos to come. Definitely going to be a Mars in Leo video coming soon as well. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you soon. Bye, and much love.